and Ria on the camera. The rest of us will go off camera and off mic.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ria Jain. I am the recruitment advisor for UCL. I deal with UCL applications for SI UK India. I am also a UCI alumni. I graduated in 2020 with a degree in LLM, and my specialization was in competition law. So today, we are very delighted to have with us today Dr. Julie Evans. She's the faculty tutor for the UCL Faculty of Brain Sciences. She has overarching responsibility for education and the student experience. Dr. Evans has traveled extensively in India, Southeast Asia, North America, and Europe, meeting prospective students and giving presentations. A part of her job she enjoys a great deal. She'll be presenting on the master's programs in the Faculty of Brain Science for psychology graduates. We hope she'll be able to visit India again, and we look forward to welcoming her to our SI UK offices as well. Along with Dr. Evans, we have Dr. Tessa Parsons from UCL Careers, who will speak briefly about the activities and opportunities they offer to the students. We also extend a warm welcome to a few current Indian postgraduate students from the Faculty of Brain Science who will participate in the Q&A that's scheduled after the presentation would perhaps be over. And Arvind, Vepa, and Namita Pandey from the UCL student recruitment team are also present. Dr. Evans, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much for that lovely welcome, and hello everybody from a very grey London. I love India. I've travelled extensively in it for work as well as for pleasure, and I can't wait till I'm able to visit again, hopefully in the not too distant future. So I'm going to talk to you today about the programs that we offer for psychology graduates. But just to give you a little bit of idea about what I actually do. So I have the title faculty tutor, which is essentially a director of education and student experience. So I'm responsible in an operational and a strategic way for the whole journey from prospective students like yourselves to applications, the admissions process, your studies with us, and your graduation. I sit at final exam boards, I sign your offer letter. So with you for the whole journey, from even starting to think about applying to UCL and studying with us to your graduation ceremony. So next slide. So just to give you a little bit of a schedule here. So I'm going to talk about the faculty programs, a little bit about the faculty. Then I'm going to hand over to Tessa Parsons, who's going to talk to you about career support we provide. Obviously, you're thinking about coming to study at UCL, not just because you're amazingly interested in the subjects, but also because you want to enhance your graduate employability afterwards. And right from the beginning, we've got support to help you to do that. Now, you're all going to be on 1 year master's programs, so it's really important to engage with careers as soon as possible, because that will really help you when you complete your studies. So a bit later on after me, Tessa will be talking to you. And then we've got an opportunity for you to ask some questions about career support. And then I'm going to introduce about 6, I think, of our current master students who are studying various programs across the faculty and are all from India. And they're going to give you a top tip and then take part in a general Q&A panel with myself and other staff and the current students. So next. Okay, so UCL is a huge university, and we have essentially 11 faculties, brain sciences, of course, being the best. We are part of a conglomeration of 4 other faculties that make up life and medical sciences, and these 4 faculties account for about 60% of the university. So brain sciences is part of life and medical sciences, which includes the Faculty of Life Sciences, the Faculty of Medical Sciences, and Population Health Sciences. Next. So let's delve a little bit more deeply into the structure of my faculty, brain sciences. So we cover a wide range of subjects and research areas, from psychiatry to psychology and language sciences. And the Division of Psychology and Language Sciences and the Institute of Neurology are the largest areas. So we can see within the Division of Psychology and Language Sciences, we've got a number of research departments where the different programs sit. So we've got clinical educational health psychology, language and cognition, experimental psychology, linguistics, the Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience, the UCL Interaction Centre. One of the programs we offer is jointly with the computer science area, and speech, hearing and phonetic sciences. We've got the Institute of Ophthalmology, which is probably less relevant to you, the Ear Institute, the Institute of Neurology, which again has a number of big research departments looking at various aspects of neurology, brain repair, rehabilitation, neurodegenerative disease, clinical experimental epilepsy, clinical neuroscience, etc., etc. And then we have the Division of Psychiatry, which isn't just full of psychiatrists, but also clinical psychologists, looking at various aspects of mental health. Next. So the biggest provider of psychology master's programs is the Division of Psychology and Language Sciences, but I'm also going to talk about programs in psychiatry and the Institute of Neurology, which are also open to psychology graduates. Many of the programs are multidisciplinary, so you may find yourself studying alongside another person who studies psychology, or someone who studies something completely different like biomedical sciences, or indeed sociology. So to say a little bit about the Division of Psychology and Language Sciences and the reputation of our education and our research at UCL, our Division of Psychology and Language Sciences is the largest and the most highly ranked department in the UK. We have a multitude of world-class researchers studying numerous areas of what could loosely be called psychology. And it's, that's why it's the most highly ranked department in the UK. And it's why we're able to offer so many specialist master's programs, because we have this research and we have this educational expertise and knowledge within the division. We undertake really world-leading research that has real-world impact and teaching across a number of areas, specifically in the area of mental health and ill health, the mind, behavior and behavior change, and of course language. Next. So more rankings for psychology, for the study of psychology. UCL is ranked the first in Europe, second in the world. That's the latest one. It's rated the best place to study psychology in Europe. It's ranked first in Europe and second in the world for neuroscience and behavior. And it's ranked first in Europe and second in the world for citations in neuroscience and behavior. That means published papers, journal-reviewed papers, published by our esteemed academic research community that are cited in other papers. And more than twice as many published papers have been cited in this area by UCL, by researchers from UCL than any other European university. So that's pretty impressive. Next. And both our research and our teaching covers a really wide field. So we're interested in behavior. We're interested in the underpinnings of behavior in terms of cognitive neuroscience. We're interested in language, sensory systems, learning and memory, how we make decisions, therapeutic interventions, social cognition. And you will see that these areas of research are very much reflected in the programs that we develop. So what essentially I'm saying here is that these world-class researchers are not just involved in developing these programs, but also involved in delivering the programs and working with students. So basically training the next generation of brain scientists, if you like, and that includes psychologists. Next slide. We've also got some great facilities, as you can imagine, to support that world-class research that's going on. And as a graduate, as a master's student within the faculty, then you will have the opportunity to do a significant research project as part of your program. So we have lots of opportunities and ways in which you can carry out research using lots of latest technology. Next, some news highlights. Now, we're very proud that the Duchess of Cambridge is very interested in some of the work that we do, and she's visited UCL quite a few times. Professor Macquarie, who's the gentleman in the photograph here, and a friend of mine, along with SEVD, runs one of the really successful research centres at UCL within the division of psychology and language sciences, and it's risk and resilience. And he's investigating, along with his co-investigators, real world problems related to child depravity, child abuse, children who grow up in adverse circumstances and what happens to them. Some go on to develop mental health problems as adolescents and adults, but some do not, hence the resilient parts. So thereby emphasizing one of the really important areas of research work that's very hands-on, very applied within the faculty in relation to early developmental years. So he's become a little bit of a superstar in that area, and you may or may not know that the Duchess of Cambridge is very interested in mental health, as is her husband, the Duke of Cambridge, and particularly mental health in relation to children and young people. So she's visited UCL several times to discover the work and talk to Eamon and his colleagues. Next. So that's mental health, and then this is about cognitive neuroscience and movement. There's a new study using a robotic third thumb, and how that impacts on sort of brain organization and brain activity. So this is someone who actually is in the office next door to me in the picture at this very moment. But I won't call her in and ask her to give a summary. So we cover a broad areas of research, all related in this field to psychology. Next. So before I start talking about the programs, I thought I'd better just check that you all understood what the structure of a master's program is at UCL. So the programs that you would be applying to would be Masters of Science programs, and they would have in total 180 credits. And this is the equivalent to a minimum of 1,800 hours of learning and self-study. And that's within a 12-month period. So it's not an academic year, which is kind of September to June or July. You would be studying across the summer and submitting your last pieces of work at the end of August, beginning of September. So this is a 12-month intense program. Now, of those 180 credits, then 120 credits of those would be taught courses, which we call modules, which would be the specialized courses relevant to that particular master's program. And because this is an MSc, then mostly you would do a 60 credit research project. So this is usually original research or original question that you would carry out starting in the second term and going through into the summer term, the third term, if you like, and submitting sort of August and September. Or you may, if you're doing an MA, because some of the programs we offer for MAs, you would be doing not a research project that would be using data or generating data. You would be doing sort of a more library-based dissertation. So how are your degrees classified? Well, each of these modules, including the big research project or dissertation, is graded on a percentage scale, so 0 to 100. And then the classification of your degree depends upon the overall average for all of your marks for all of these modules, including the research project and dissertation. So at master's level, a pass is 50%. And so a pass degree would be between an average of 50 and 59%. A merit would be between 60 and 69% average. And then a distinction would be 70% plus. Now, our entry criteria are quite high. It's quite competitive. We've got fantastic educators, fantastic delivery programs. So I sit on many, many exam boards. We just actually finished the master's exam board, or I've got a final one today. And the vast majority of students, I would say probably 90% plus, get a merit or a distinction. So very high achieving students, and that's a combination of high entry qualifications, lots of hard work, lots of support, great delivery programs. Next slide, please. Now, there's an alternative master's program, which I will mention a little bit later, and we have a few of these that are suitable for psychology graduates. And these are MRes programs. So they're Masters of Research. And there are less taught modules and a much, much bigger research project. So I would say that these are things you should consider if you definitely know the area of study that you want to go in. And you definitely are taking a master's program as a step up to a PhD and a research degree. So these might interest some of you. So like the taught masters, these are 180 credits, so 1,800 learning hours approximately, but it's flipped. So only 60 of those 180 credits are taught modules, and they're usually based around research skills, research methods, analysis, and skills that you would need to do your big research project, which is actually 2/3 of the module. So you do this massive 120 credit research project, and it must be data driven. It's not a dissertation. So this is for students who are interested in really doing research that generates and analyzes data. It's graded and classified in the same way as the MSc programs, with a pass, a merit, and a distinction. So can we have the next slide, please? Now, I'm just going to give you an example of the kind of master's programs that you would be able to study as a psychology graduate in the division of psychology and language sciences. So we have the MSc behavior change. We have, which is led out of the behavior change units, world leading research units, the head of which, Susan Mickey, is currently advising the government about mask wearing and social distancing, etc., in times of COVID. So she's working directly with the government. We have MSc Cognitive Neuroscience, looking at the kind of underpinnings, the biological underpinnings about how we think, how we make decisions. And we have, I believe, someone from that program here today. MSc Social Cognition, if you're interested in social psychology, if you're interested in individuals and group behavior, then that's the one for you. MSc Cognitive and Decision Sciences looks at decision making, so it's an advanced program in how we in memory, how we learn, how we make decisions, how we apply heuristics to problem solving. Then we have the MSc Theoretical Psychoanalytic Studies, and we have someone here today who's studying that. Human-computer interaction, very important area, very forward-thinking. Then at the Anna Freud Center, we have early child development and clinical applications. We have developmental psychology and clinical practice. So we believe we have students from 2 of those programs. And then we have an MSc in language sciences, which has specialized roots in relation to neuroscience, language and communication, and language development, if it's that side of psychology that interests you and you'd like to study that further. Next slide, please. So within the MRes program structure, we've got an MRes in cognitive neuroscience as well. And we also have a developmental neuroscience and psychopathology MRes program. That's a 2-year program. And the second year of that is spent doing a big research project, mainly at Yale University in the US. And we also have an MRes in speech, language and cognition. Next slide, please. Then we have some programs in psychiatry that are very popular with psychology graduates. The first one is the MSc Clinical Mental Health Sciences. If you're interested in doing a specialist advanced study of general mental health, not just focusing on children and young people, but broadly understanding more about clinical mental health conditions, this is the program for you. We have an MSc in dementia that's looking at the causes, the treatments and research, but from a mental health perspective, not a biological perspective. And then we have a number of programs in the Institute of Neurology. I think we have someone here from that area as well. So we offer an MSc in Brain and Mind Sciences, which is a 2-year program with the second year spent in Sorbonne University in Paris, another very, very famous university, very old university. We have the MSc Clinical Neuroscience, and we have someone here from that today. And then we have the MSc Dementia, again, looking at causes, treatment and research, but this is from a more neuroscience perspective. So we cater for the whole range of interest in psychology, from the theoretical psychoanalytic studies to the more neuroscience, biological kind of basis of behavior and the brain, all suitable for psychology graduates. Next slide, please. So I just want to finish the more academic part of the talk by telling you a little bit about the 4 main areas of research which the faculty focuses on that are studied across the faculties. These are very cross-discipline research. So one of the main areas of research is neurodegeneration and neuroprotection. And this research, which is carried out in psychiatry and neurology and also in psychology, is about understanding the processes that underlie these really complex neurological conditions, such as dementia, such as multiple sclerosis, such as stroke, and many other perhaps more rare and complex neurological disorders. Now, dementia is one of the biggest health problems facing the world. Not just the UK, not just Europe, but the world. And as people are living to be older, then the incidence of people with dementia is becoming greater and greater and greater. And there's amazing work being done within the Faculty of Brain Sciences that were awarded a large grant with Cambridge, actually, and Oxford to set up the Dementia Research Institute. So this was a very large government-funded grant. And there are many people working on understanding the underlying process of these conditions, early markers of these conditions, developing interventions for these conditions that are doing amazing work. And that's why we have a couple of dementia research programs, because it's such an important area of work for psychologists, clinicians, neurologists, psychiatrists. Next. Mental health and therapeutic interventions. So at UCL, we also have the Institute of Mental Health. It's a cross UCL research institute that pulls together lots of research initiatives, lots of research knowledge, and is linked with clinical psychologists, with psychiatry, with neuroscientists. So people are doing population studies of mental health issues, they're also looking at, single cells, they're looking at genes and everything in between. We've got the full spectrum. So mental health research is a really key part of the faculty, and that's obviously represented in the number of programs that we have to study at master level that are related to mental health. Some focusing on children and young adolescents, some covering the whole spectrum of adult mental health issues as well. Next slide, please. Understanding and influencing behavior, and this is normal behavior and abnormal behavior. So we have a huge range of researchers working in behavior change, understanding complex behaviors, not just of the individual, but also groups. And that can be, subgroups within a particular society, could be whole societies, could be whole cultures, could be whole countries. So understanding behavior is really, really important. And it's never been more important in the time of COVID, where, behavior change has had to be quite swift, and the message and communications about how people should behave within the pandemic has had to be effective and reach people so that the maximum number of people are behaving in an appropriate way. So next slide, please. And sensory systems. So one broad area of research brings together expertise in hearing, in vision, and also in thinking, another important area. And next slide, please. Okay, so I've shown you a little bit about the faculty and the programs that as psychology graduates you're able to apply for. These are the entry requirements. I'm assuming, Ria, that we will circulate these slides afterwards to attendees. Is that correct? But you're able to talk about the entry criteria to individuals anyway. So I would just, great. So you don't have to scribble anything down. So I would just emphasize that this, is a very competitive university. We have many applications. We take the best students. So you need to meet the criterion. So here's some information about the criterion, and of course, importantly, also the requirements for English as well. There will be some programs that you might be interested in. These are the general requirements. Some programs may have slightly higher English language requirements because there is a practical element to the program. And I'm sure some of our students will be able to talk about that a little bit later on. So next slide, please. There's also a lot of support for students at UCL, for international students. So the International Student Support Team helps you settle into life in the UK. We'll do in-country briefings. We'll work with agents such as SI UK to make sure that you're as prepared as you possibly can to settle into UCL and into London. Many of our international students have never been in London before, but they adapt really quickly. There are many big cities in India, so you'll be coming from one big city to another, though I'm not saying that all of you who are attending here are living in a big city. It's just London's just a little bit more organized, I think, than many big cities have been to in India, in terms of transport especially. But this is a great team that can give you practical advice about healthcare, banking, transport, accommodation, safety. And we also run an additional international student orientation program during induction week to really help you settle in. There's also, of course, the graduate route in terms of visa. So the graduate route is a visa that's available to international students once they've successfully completed a degree at undergraduate level or at master's level. So this is applicable to you then. And if you find a job, then you can apply for a student visa and you can work for 2 years. Usually it's up to 2 years after your graduation in the UK, thereby gaining really valuable experience. So this bit is almost finished, so we're almost seamlessly going on to Tessa, but next slide, please. So final thing, lots of information about the faculty and its courses. Visit our webpage. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. There's lots of interesting information there from students, what's happening in research. And one final thing I want to say before I pass on and introduce Tessa, who's going to talk to you about careers, is we have an early application deadline, okay, which is March the 31st. And I'm sure Ria and her colleagues will also reiterate this. It's really important if you're thinking of coming to UCL for next September that you keep to that deadline. It will take you a while to write your application, so start preparing early. March 31st is the deadline, but some popular courses may close before then. So my strong message to you is take some time to to work on your application, and there may be questions about that later, but you need to apply earlier rather than later, because these courses are very popular, they're very competitive because they've got a great reputation. Okay, so if we can close this this presentation, and Tessa, are you there? Yeah, there's Tessa. So I've now, hello Tessa, thank you. Can I hand over to you to introduce yourself and tell our prospective students what your role is within the faculty and the career service, and to give your presentation.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Right, let me just try and share my screen here. No. Oh, apologies. If I can just, I'm just going to go back to my first slide. While I'm pulling that up, I am Tessa Parsons and I'm a careers consultant over at UCL Careers. So that means that most of my time is spent working directly with students, and I'm the Link careers consultant for brain sciences. Okay, do we have slides? Yes, we do. Lovely. Okay,
all fine.
So, just to reassure you that I'm not going to give a philosophy presentation, but I did just want to start with a metaphor that we use quite a lot at UCL Careers, and one that I quite like, which is that your career is a journey, and jobs are places that you visit along the way. And just that, you know, students now are going to be working a very long time and are likely to have multiple jobs, possibly even multiple careers. The world of work is changing really rapidly, and that jobs today, you know, some of the most sought after jobs today didn't exist 10 years ago, and technology is changing everything. Also that you're likely to have multiple selves, and there'll be no single right path for you. So we're here at UCL Careers not to tell you what you should do, or if those doors in that right-hand picture are jobs to match you to a particular job, but we can support you wherever you're at with your careers thinking. So whether that's with exploring options, finding information, making decisions, applying to opportunities, we can support. So it may be that you come to UCL and you have absolutely no idea what you want to do at the end of your degree, or perhaps you've got a couple of ideas that you want to pursue, or you've got a very clear focus about what you want to do next. Perhaps you're looking for some work experience, or there are particular skills you want to build. You might be applying for opportunities during your time at UCL or towards the end, or facing an interview. And we can support with all those things. So I'm just going to talk through some of the activities that we do that you can engage with at UCL to try and help you decide what it is that you want to do next, and make the most of your opportunities. So before your course even starts, one of the first contacts that you'll get from us is an invitation to enroll onto an online Master's Careers Essentials course, which is specifically for postgraduate support students. And this involves it's not compulsory, but it's a way to engage with career thinking. There are activities and suggestions for things that you can do while you're at UCL. And myself and colleagues engage with the forums for the first few weeks, responding to posts and giving you feedback on activities. Then, starting early in the autumn term, we run a series of careers fairs covering the large sort of corporate areas, so management consultancy, banking, finance and economics, life and health sciences, IT and technology, engineering and built environment, and law. And those are good opportunities to talk to employers about what kinds of vacancies they have or graduate programs that they run. And then between November and March, we run our sort of flagship themed week program, where we take a sector, and each week has several events on different aspects of that sector. And they are a really great way to talk to employers, professionals. Often we have former UCL students take part in those events, so our alumni, who can really talk to you about how they got from being a student to where they are now, and advice for things you can do along the way to get into that sector. So you can see there's a sort of broad range of areas that we cover there. New for this year is that we have a program of work-related learning events, again, where you might be able to hear from a panel of professionals on a particular sector or theme, or you can come along to a session which involves a practical activity. So we've run 2 recently on aspects of consultancy, where during the session, which might be an hour and a half or 2 hours, students have actually been able to engage with an activity that is along the lines of what a consultant might do. Some of our events are more kind of training related. So we've got a data-driven management and digital consulting training event, which runs over 3 weeks and gives you a bit of exposure as to what that role actually might be like. And the idea behind these was to kind of go, not to include some of the panel events, but go a bit beyond that so that you can actually try something out and also gain some skills that you can add into your CV. Of course, you'll also have access to all the core provision that we provide. So we run a Career Essentials program of talks and workshops, which covers all the elements of kind of career thinking, whether that's, again, trying to help you make a decision or explore your options, or whether it's just that you want advice on getting a CV together. We have employers come onto campus virtually, mostly at the moment, but run sessions for us throughout the year. And again, sometimes those are more on CVs or assessment centres, or they might be on things like transitioning into the workplace. Our information staff collate a careers discovery feed where they put together really bespoke information for UCL students. So that's access to that is exclusively for UCL students. We had a big initiative last year where we set up a careers YouTube channel, and we have lots of resources on there that are available to everybody. We have vacancies listings, so employers that we work with or are interested in UCL students will advertise on our jobs listings, and we have lots of resources to help you with interviews, running from practice software through to videos that you can watch with examples of poor and good answers to interview questions. We offer personal support, so if you want to talk to one of us on an individual basis, you can book an appointment, and we have various kinds of appointments, but for brain sciences students, you would have access to the life and health sciences appointments and the short guidance appointments, which are 20-minute conversations with a careers consultant about anything relating to careers. We also have 20-minute applications advice, which obviously are specific for applications, and you can book a practice interview with us if you're facing a real interview from an employer. In terms of activities that we organise that are specifically targeted to international students, Julie mentioned the visa options. We run some visa talks. So we have one of the UCL immigration and visa team run a talk for us this year. It will be on the graduate route, which is new for this year. One of the others will be on the skilled worker visa, which is the old tier 2. And then we are partnering up with an organisation that endorses applications for the exceptional talent visa. and they are going to give a talk for us between January and March next year. So we run those sorts of talks. And then we also run some panel events. So we source alumni who have stayed here in the UK working on one form of visa or another. And we convened a panel event so that you can talk to them about how they did that or what it's like working in the UK. Interesting that a lot of discussion has come up around sort of cultural adaptations. This year, we're also going to run an event on how the international alumni groups and recent graduate networks can help you in your next steps. So the alumni team at UCL have set up recently some recent graduate networks, which are led by recent graduates, but supported by the alumni team. There are 7 or 8 of those, I think. They're quite a new initiative, but one of them is in India, and they have a focus on running professional development activities. We have a couple of data dashboards that can be useful to you. So again, that's exclusive access to UCL students, but a data dashboard that shows where our international students go, and also a visa sponsorship data dashboard. So the UK government publishes a list of organisations that are licensed to sponsor the skilled worker visa. And through Freedom of Information requests, we have that data in a searchable database format, also with the numbers of visas that have been sponsored over the last, I think it's 5 years now. When you finish your course, we're still here to help. You have access to all the services and events from UCL Careers for 3 years after you leave. And just to say that we're on all the usual social media channels. So take a look, check us out, and you can find news and information about what we do there. That's actually it from me. So I'm very happy to take any questions related to UCL Careers, if there are any.
So there's one question. Should I just read it out?
Sure.
It is, what is the job prospects for international student after completing theoretical psychoanalytic studies from UCL?
I don't have that data at my fingertips, and some of the data will not be broken. Depending on the number of international students on the course, the data may go down to that level or not. The data is based on responses to a survey that was conducted 6 months after graduation, is now conducted 15 months after graduation. So I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers to hand for that specific question.
We do actually have a student from that program on the panel. I just wonder, Pran, if you're there, if you put your camera on. So if you want to introduce yourself, and I don't know if you've thought about any future careers. So if you want to contribute here, your microphone's off, by the way. So you need, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. I'm Pran. My family's from Allahabad, but I've lived in Canada and Dublin before this. I'm born in India, but I've lived abroad for like as long as I can remember. So I do the MSc in Theoretical Psychoanalytic Studies. And this, you could take this for my top tip as well, because I think that'd be a helpful answer to the question. I think getting into psychoanalysis is kind of, it's not a straightforward path because there's so many different modalities within psychoanalysis. So you kind of have to suss it out as you're doing the course. But I think my top tip would be have a look at the kind of careers within psychoanalysis or beyond that you'd want to have kind of coming into the course. I know for me, it's focused, and it always has been, around child and adolescent psychotherapy. So for me, it's going to be a training after this that will help me get through to there. And there's requirements for it. You have to be in children observation for a certain number of hours. So maybe look into courses that might do them on the evenings or part-time that you could maybe do while you're doing this as well. So yeah, my recommendation in that case, I mean, sure, you could get jobs straight after, but it might be a bit difficult and they wouldn't really be as a psychoanalyst. So to be a practicing psychoanalyst, to be a psychotherapist with a psychoanalytic modality, I think you're going to have to look at different trainings, different postgraduate options for that.
Thank you, Pran. Are there any other questions for Tessa before she goes?
No, we do not have it as, no, not for careers. I just want to add to, just briefly, like I found the UCL Career Site very, very helpful. Like just the way you explained it when I was a student, it was very, very helpful. Extremely, it helps you build networks. So definitely people listening, definitely connect with the UCL Career Site. Extremely helpful.
I would absolutely endorse that, Ria. And I think because you be coming to a one-year program, it's quite intense. And you might arrive in September, you come to our faculty induction, you'll have a talk from Tessa again, reminding you of these things. And you might think, oh God, I don't need to think about that for a year. Actually, you do, because it's not just about, applying for the job. It's about thinking about what jobs that you are interested in, realizing what skills as well as knowledge that you have gained through your course, because you may not go into a career that uses broadly psychology. It might be something different, because you'll have lots of graduate skills, which Tessa will help you and her team will help you tease out. Okay, so if we have no more specific careers questions, thank you very much, Tessa, for your time today and your information. And you're free to leave, but you're welcome to stay for the rest of the event if you would like. So thank you, Tessa. Okay, so I'd now like to introduce all of our students. So one of you has just popped up now, but can I ask all of our current Indian students to turn their cameras on and to introduce themselves? I'll randomly shout out your names. So we've got Tanya, we've got Pran. Do we have Prisha here? Is Prisha here? So I can't see who is here or not.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so brilliant. So is Devani here? Devani?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, brilliant. Turn your camera on. Anushka, I did see Anushka there earlier. So Anushka,
hi, I'm here. My camera
brilliant.
has been disabled though, so I can't turn it on.
Oh, okay, don't worry. You can hear us. Revati?
I'm here. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Oh, you're outside. Somewhere in London. And Swati. Is Swati here? Swati?
Hi, I'm here.
Brilliant. Okay. And I don't think we have Malika. She wasn't sure she could ride. Do we have Malika here? No. Okay. Right. So I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience, to just tell us your name, the course that you're studying, where you're from in India, and your top tip. And maybe Pran can think of another one, because his first one was so useful. So not in any particular order, but on my list. Tanya, would you like to go first?
Julie, if I may just interrupt at this point. Forgive me,
Okay.
Tanya. I think for the students, it would be very helpful when they're introducing themselves also to briefly mention the institution from which they obtained their undergraduate degree or their previous degree. I think it'll just be a nice part of the introduction. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, that as well. So Tanya, over to you. Spotlight's on you.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Tanya, and I study the clinical neuroscience course. So if anyone's got any questions, I've got a few friends on the brain and mind sciences course as well, so I can maybe help with that too. I obtained my bachelor's from the University of St Andrews up in Scotland. So I've been in the UK for a while now. And so, yeah. And if you've got any questions pertaining to any of that, please do let me know. My top tip for people applying would be to, in your application, make sure you have a little bit of sort of insight for the people reading it into what you want to do after you finish your course, because as it's been mentioned, it's only a one-year course, and so you have to really be thinking about your future prospects pretty early on. And so I would really start to think about it even at the application stage. And for me, I'm really interested in research, And so my sort of end goal was to become a researcher. And I, talking about how this degree would help me was quite a big aspect of that. And so, give that some thought and do definitely include that in your application.
Thank you, Tanya. And where are you from originally in India? What's your hometown?
So I'm a little bit of a mix. My mom's from Delhi and my dad's from Goa. But we live in Mumbai. So.
Okay, thank you very much. So,
No
Pran,
worries.
next.
Hello again. I am Pran. My family's from Allahabad, but I have been moving around for a very long time. Moved to Canada when I was 16, and since then it's been a journey. My undergrad was from Trinity College Dublin, so I did my undergrad there, worked there for a bit, and then moved over here. And my top tip, because now I have to give another one, would be to absolutely consider the skills you'd maybe want to pick up outside of your course as well. Skills maybe that could help you with further training, further education, or even just employability afterwards. So anything that you think might be of help. I know Careers is a brilliant resource as well. So that'd be my top tip.
Thank you very much, Pran. So we have Prisha.
Hi, everyone. So I'm originally from New Delhi. I moved to the UK a couple of years ago. For my undergrad, I did go to UCL as well. I was on the BSc Psychology and Language Sciences program, and now I'm studying on the MSc Early Child Development and Clinical Applications program. So my top tip would be to have some sort of research experience or just work experience, and in your personal statement, just talk about how that relates to specific things taught in the course that you're applying for, or how the skills you have might help you. And I think UCL is very research focused. So that was the focus of my personal statement. And I think that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prisha. And so we have Devani.
Hi, everyone. My name is Swati Porval, and I'm originally from Mumbai. I did my undergrad in Sheffield for the last 3 years. I graduated this summer in biomedical science. And I am now doing a master's in speech and language sciences. This is a little different to most other courses because, again, this is a 2 years master's. And basically, you graduate as an allied health professional, so a licensed speech and language therapist. I think my top tip would be, first of all, consider applying very early on, because this is the course that has its deadline, I think in November or December. That was how it was for me, because they have interviews as well, which happen in January then. And also work experience is sort of mandatory for the course. So try and definitely think about it really early on, and do your research, be prepared. It is a really intense course in general. We start way earlier compared to the others as well. We started 1st of September, which is almost a month earlier. So yeah, just research well and be prepared for it.
Thank you very much, Devani. And this is a kind of conversion program in that you don't have to have studied speech and language sciences beforehand. They take graduates from a number of different disciplines, including psychology. You just happen to do biomed science. And this is very career oriented. It's training people to be speech and language therapists. It's not an academic or a research program. Do we have...
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to mention as well, the early child development course is also 2 years. So that's something to think about, and it's 2 years full time. So that would be something to consider.
Thank you very much, Prisha. I forgot to mention that. Thank you. That's because one of the years you do quite a lot of practical experience, right? You have placements.
Right. So we do have a clinical observation with a parent and infant. So that really helps for applications towards training for being a psychotherapist. And yeah, there is a lot of placement and research work.
Thank you. Anushka, I know you're there somewhere, that you're the one whose camera is disabled.
No,
So...
I'm here now, thanks.
Oh, you're here, right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anushka. I'm from Lucknow, and I'm currently in London at UCL, of course. And I did my undergrad in psychology from University of Glasgow. I am now a second year here at UCL on the developmental psychology and clinical practice masters, which is also 2 years, and second year is 3 days a week placement, and then classes and a discussion group. And I think my top tip would be do not hesitate in forming connections and networking. And this can range from when you start thinking about applying for your course, when you're thinking about then applying for your declin site in regards to this degree specifically, or even when you're thinking about job applications. Just don't be afraid to reach out to people. For example, Swastika, who is actually on this call, is my friend, and I knew that she was on this course before me. So I reached out to her before I was applying just to get her thoughts on what the interview process is like, what the application is like. And of course, nobody can tell you exactly what it's going to be like, but I have found in my experience, people are usually really keen to connect with you, to help out. And I know that myself and all of my classmates are also really keen. Like if somebody just sends us a cold email, I'm sure we will be more than happy to like just give you some thoughts on what you could be doing in your interview, in your application, how you could be building up your portfolio. So don't be hesitate to reach out and connect with people.
Thank you very much. And we might as well do Swati now, because you're on the same program but a year behind. So Swati, do you want to introduce yourself and give us your top tip?
Yes, and also I think I'm a year ahead, so I just like finished my degree, the one that Anushka is doing.
Oh, you're ahead, sorry.
Yes, and I think just to add to what she said, I did the same thing, in fact, like during my time of applying to UCL. So that's a really great tip to give there. And I think just something about me, I'm from Lucknow. I was also born in Allahabad, like Pran. And I did my undergrad from Delhi University before coming to UCL, and I joined UCL in 2019 for an MSc. And I just finished my 2 years master's degree that Anushka just spoke about. It's the one in developmental psychology and clinical practice. And in my second year, I did like an honorary placement within an NHS provision for children and adolescents. And it's known as the CAMP service. And this one was at the Royal Free Hospital in London. So it was quite a busy service. But I think the experience of having worked there was like really enriching, I think, especially because it really gave me the opportunity to apply what I'd learned during my first year. And I think just having studied at UCL, especially for me at the Anna Freud Center, where most of my teaching was based, it is actually phenomenal. And I love how each of the modules and even the topics within those modules were like, they were always taught by experts in the particular given topic or in that field. And they always like come to you when they talk about the newest cutting edge research. And I think that's kind of what's amazing about just studying at a university that's like one of the best in psychology in the world. So yeah, I think you really get to experience that when you're there. And
thank you, Swati. We might come back to you. And finally, can I introduce Revati?
Hi, my name is Revati Nair. I'm doing the MSc Cognitive Neuroscience course. It's a very academically oriented course, and it's a one-year course, but there's also a part-time option in case anyone's interested. I'm also from I'm from Mumbai. I graduated from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. My top tip is most social, that is academic. I'd say try to look for other people who are also applying to UCL. Like from the get-go, if you find people who you can connect with about the entire process of applying to UCL, it's very it's comforting to know that someone else is in the same boat as you, which was a big relief for me when I applied to UCL, and the entire process of the visa application and getting my offer letter, etc. It's good to have that support system. So there are a lot of Facebook groups that you'll find. You'll find your course groups as well, probably. So try to find people. And a more academic tip would be, since I'm assuming a lot of you are psychology students, and a lot of options at UCL are very specific. Like mine is cognitive neuroscience. It has a neuroscience element that I did not learn in my undergrad. It would be great to start reading, start doing your own research, start learning by yourself. It can really help you when you join the course. People here are very supportive. They will give you as much guidance as possible, as much help as you need to catch up. But it's best to do your own research as well, your own study, and to not be overwhelmed when you join this course. course, there are a lot of people from different streams that are also in this course. And you might initially feel like you don't fit or you are not up to their mark, but you will get there, I promise you that.
Thank you. And are you sitting in Queen Square Gardens?
I'm sitting in Russell Square. Yeah,
Russell
I just got done with my lecture.
Okay, very close to where I'm sitting. So thank you very much. So so can I ask now Arvind to join us for the panel? Arvind is a specialist in India and many other countries and works in our international office. Arvind, you can put your camera on so you're part of the panel. I think Ria is reading the questions out. So do we have any questions?
Yes, we have quite a few. So I'll just start with the first one. Can students from an electronics background be eligible to apply for the MSc Human-Computer Interaction?
That's an interesting question. The answer is possibly, as long as they have completed some computer science modules. So there needs to be some background in computer science or psychology, because this is a kind of joint degree. So it depends on whether they have studied any computer science modules. They might well have done as part of their electronic engineering. So have a look at the entry criterion, but I think they would need to have studied some computer science modules as part of their degree, and obviously be able to articulate why they now want to shift from electronic engineering to human-computer interaction. But certainly worth putting an application in, and maybe also having a chat with the contact that will be on the prospectus page before they apply.
Right, okay. And the second question is, my current degree is not BPS accredited, so do I need to get it verified to apply for the clinical related course of psychology?
Okay, so if you want to train as a professional psychologist, such as a clinical psychologist, then you would have to. However, you don't need an accredited BPS course to apply for many of the programs that we've talked about, because they're not accredited by the British Psychological Society. And as we've seen, I don't think any of the students on the call who are on those more clinical programs have a BPS accredited degree necessarily. And also things like the clinical mental health sciences in psychiatry, which is more broad based, less focused on children and adolescents, you don't need a BPS accredited degree. So you can apply for many courses in the clinical area without a BPS accredited degree. However, if you then want to choose and go on to study at a professional doctorate level, you would have to get your degree verified by the British Psychological Society, and there is a process for that.
Right, okay, great. And
not at the master's level.
Right. This is a very generic question. What is the entry requirement for conversion to psychological sciences? I would like to modify that a little bit and ask you, are you willing to consider applicants who do not meet the basic grade requirement for the course?
No, there is so much competition for these programs that we don't consider people who don't make the basic entry criterion, I'm afraid. But I wonder if your question is asking about the MSc Psychological Sciences, which they might have read about. We offer a conversion course for people who've not studied psychology previously, but might want to go on and study specialist psychology at a master's level. This one-year master's course is the MSc in Psychological Sciences. I didn't list it in the subject lists that I talked about, because I wasn't sure if there were non-psychology graduates on this meeting. However, this is a program that is 1 year. It's an intense year, and at the end of that program, you will be able to get graduate basis of chartership as well as a master's in psychological sciences from the British Psychological Society, which will then allow you to progress, if you wish, to those training areas in the UK that are accredited by the British Psychological Society, such as, I think one of the students mentioned, the professional doctorate in clinical psychology. So that's a conversion course for students who either have only studied a little bit of psychology or who haven't studied psychology at all. And the entry criterion for that is just a good 2-1 degree equivalent and English language requirements. And obviously you need to, provide a good personal statement as to why you want to take this course, why you want to do this conversion course.
Right. And just to follow up to that, what are you exactly looking for in the personal statement when it comes to these programs? Like, what would you be looking for specifically?
Okay, I'm going to ask the students to answer after me because they would probably have some tips. Personal statement is really, really important because we do get more applications than we have places. And so it's really important to show that in your personal statement, you have a really good understanding of what the program is about, okay? How it meets your kind of current interests and knowledge and skills that you've learned in your undergraduate degree, and have some idea about where this program will enable you to, or how this program can enable you to get towards your ultimate career destination, which may be some years down the future. What Tessa said, stepping stones, right? Your master's at UCL will be a stepping stone to your career, but I think it's a good idea to show why you want to take this course and how it fits in with your general interest and careers. But I'm going to throw that open to the student now. So students, so maybe there is also a certain type of personal statement that is required for UK courses that might be a little bit different for Indian students applying to India. So it needs to be, your personal statement needs to be quite focused. I don't need to know who your mum and your dad are or where you came from. It has to be very focused on the kind of academic knowledge that you have. Do some research on the program first, understand what modules are being taught. You may even mention, that there's some researcher who is involved with the program that you're particularly interested in. So you need to be very focused. But Prisha, top tip for personal statement, just one thing, and then I'm going to go around the rest, a couple of others.
Right, like you said, mention academia and research. It's more about what research you want to do specifically, and look into the professors that are on the program, researchers that are on the program that you might want to do your dissertation with. So I talked a bit about that and how previous research would connect and lead on to the research you want to do on the program. Would be quite beneficial.
Thank you. Tanya.
So I would say when you're writing your personal statement, make sure you're not just listing stuff. So, we've included a lot of sort of advice here of, you should have this, you should have that. Please not make it a list. Speaking to faculty members, I think people read a lot of these and you need something that makes your personal statement stand out. And I think a really good way of like looking at this would be to maybe think of it as a story. So, your past is sort of maybe the introduction, what your former, qualifications are, and then how this would be a stepping stone, as we've already mentioned, to your future. So that's one way of maybe splitting this personal statement up. There's your first sort of paragraph could be what you've done in the past, what you want to do could be the middle, which is why this MSc would help, and then the final paragraph would be what you want to do. But yeah, please don't make it a long list of things that you've done.
Thank you. And final, we just get a cognitive neuroscience. Ravati, are you still there in your Russell Square Garden? So you were applying from India. So, rather than you studied in India for your bachelor's. So any top tips for the students who are on this call who are doing the same?
Like I said before, a lot of you might have done like a general psychology degree and might be going into something that's more specialized at UCL. So try to read up a lot and try to gain more knowledge about the new space that you're trying to enter. And maybe you could mention the books you are reading or the articles you are reading and your interest in that area in your statement as well. And it will show the person who's reading your statement that you actually can bridge that gap between your psychology degree and this master's degree that you're trying to go into. And make sure any information you provide in the statement is relevant to what you're trying to express, and not just something else that might be important in another context, but not really to this course.
Thank you. Very wise words. And I would just, we don't have time for all of the students to answer this, but one last thing I would say is, if you have any relevant work experience, or, you know, that can be volunteer or paid work experience, might often be volunteer, mention it, but don't just list it. Like Tanya said, don't just say, oh, I did this volunteering work. What you have to do is talk about the skills and the knowledge you've learned from that volunteering work or that paid work, and link it to the course, okay, and your future goals for wanting to study the course. So don't just list, explain what that work experience has given you, and how it will help you with the course and your ultimate career goal. We don't expect every person who's applying to have like a definite career path, because things might change. There might be some things that you've not studied before on the course that take you in a different direction because you become really fascinated by them. So we're not going to like hold you to it, but we want you to sort of give some indication of how, what you know, why you want to study at UCL, why you want to study this program, and how it fits into some overarching goal that you have in terms of what you're going to do with your life. Yeah. Obviously not including marriage and everything. I mean, I don't mean the emotional side, but I mean, you know, your career path and what you're interested in. Okay, do we have any more questions, Rhea?
Yes, we do. Actually, it's for the current students. What would you say are the major differences from studying psychology in the UK and India?
Okay, so those are these students who have studied their bachelor's in India, or I guess elsewhere.
Yes, yes. They want to know the difference between studying psychology in the UK and their perspective of studying psychology in India.
So I think we had 2 students who did their bachelor's in India. So would you like to answer that? I know Revati was one of them. I can't remember the other one.
It was
yes,
me
I
again.
can.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Thanks. Thanks, Swati.
I can just add one thing that comes to my mind. I think it's the major difference that I noticed was that in the UK, you're really encouraged to think critically about the material. It's not just you learning through the text or through the teaching, but that's something like critical thinking is a skill that's actually like really sort of reinforced through all the learning and the way things are being taught. So that's kind of one major difference that I can think about.
I would absolutely agree. It's not rote learning, particularly at master's level. It is actually, you know, we like people who ask questions and who question the kind of current status quo. Revati, do you want to add anything to that? And then I think Prisha probably studied in India.
I was at UCL.
Yeah, but before you came to UCL, did you come from India?
Yes, but that was just middle school and high school, so I'm not sure if I can really answer that. But from experience of friends telling me how their courses in India are, I'd say the research and critical thinking, like Swastika said, is not to the level how it is here. And I think with writing skills as well, I think it's not focused on as much as it is in the UK.
Revati, do you want to have the last word to this question?
Yeah, I agree with what Swastika said about the fact that in UK universities, they encourage critical thinking a lot. And also one major issue that I had coming from India, studying psychology in India to studying psychology at UCL, is I did not have a very strong research background. And many students who come from in other international backgrounds, they might have a very strong research experience background, which I am lacking in because of the way my university functions. So that's somewhere I still need to catch up. And if you can do that before you come to UCL, all the students are listening, that'd be great. If you keep reading, keep learning, it'll really help you when you reach here.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions, Rhea?
Yes, we do. One of the questions is, can students apply for doctorate in clinical psychology directly after pursuing their bachelor's from India?
No.
No. Okay.
No is the answer to that. I'm happy for you to share my email. It's a very complicated answer. So we don't have that many minutes left, and it's probably only going to be relevant to a few people on the call. So I'm happy for you to share my email, and I can actually, if you email me that question, Ria, then I can give you a fuller reply, which you can then disseminate.
Great, fantastic. And one last one. It's, if we apply for the BPS accreditation after our bachelor's in psychology in India, can we apply for doctorate in clinical psychology in the future?
Right, so there are two essential criteria that you need to be eligible to apply for the doctorate in clinical psychology. Firstly, you need to have an undergraduate degree that's probably a first, highly competitive, and it has to be BPS approved, whether, you know, that wherever it's studied, it has to be BPS accredited. So you have to go through that accreditation process, or have studied in the UK on a program that is accredited. Secondly, you need to have a minimum 2 years relevant clinical experience, and that is the big thing that students applying from India will find it very difficult to get. It's much easier if you're kind of in the UK, if you've studied a master's and then got, you know, some work experience afterwards using the post-study visa. We do have, but that relevant clinical experience it's absolutely critical, and that's going to be quite difficult to get in India because of the kind of structure of the health service there. And your training on the professional doctorate in clinical psychology will be UK based. So you'll have to understand the National Health Service structures and how that support for mental health provision is delivered in the UK. So I would recommend anyone who's seriously thinking about that to come and do an MSc here. You know, I think a couple of the students here might be thinking about that for the future. Come and do an MSc here, whether it's a 1 year or a 2 year MSc. Use that time when you're studying to do some volunteer work, which will then help you to get a job, potentially as a research assistant or as an assistant to a psychologist, which will give you the experience to be able to apply for the professional doctorate in clinical psychology. We do have about, it varies between 8 and maybe 12 max international students a year who come to study the professional doctorate in clinical psychology, but it's a 3-year program. It's quite expensive and it's quite difficult to get in, but it is an amazing program. So I would say for anyone who's in India now, who's thinking about that, come and take a clinical related master's program, get your graduate basis for chartership, and use your time in the UK to prepare yourself to get some experience to apply for that professional doctorate of clinical psychology, which is highly competitive. We have a program at UCL. They have 35 places a year, but only about 10 of those would be limited, you know, restricted to international students. And they have, you know, over, I don't know, I think the last time I looked, they had about 800 applications. So it's highly competitive. But having said that, you know, we do have students from India on that program, just not very many. And I imagine some of the people here doing the more clinical related courses are thinking about that as a potential career. So Prisha's nodding. So Prisha, would you like to say something?
Well, yes, I would like to study on that program. And like you said, the work experience and clinical experience is an important part of it. And I do think the master's course I am on right now is really helping me to get that. And I've spoken to my module leaders and other researchers, and they're very happy to help me get that experience. So like you said, the master's course in the UK or at UCL would be a good way to start to build up your experience for the doctorate.
Thank you. And you're studying early child development and clinical applications, correct?
Yes, that's right. That's
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ria, do we have any other questions?
I think you've answered this one, but it's when is the last date of application for the program?
Or last date, March 31st, but some programs will close earlier because they're very popular. So if you really want to study this September, get your application in January, or, you know, before we close in December. Also to say, UCL actually closes for like 10 days over Christmas and New Year. the whole place closes down. So if you don't get your application in before we close, which is I think December 23rd, then wait until we open again on January the 4th, because nothing's going to happen to it during that intervening period. But March 31st is the last deadline.
There's one more question. This is the last one. If an applicant has significant work experience, would that mitigate the fact that they're not meeting the basic grade entry requirement?
It depends on how far below the grade they are. You know, it's very competitive. So we have enough students who meet the grade and have got work experience. Again, that is something that I would encourage the potential applicant to have a discussion first with the program. So in the prospectus pages, there will be a contact for each program. There'll be an email contact, and I would, rather than just, you know, apply and hope for the best, I would actually engage in a dialogue via email with that particular program and get some advice for that particular program, because it will vary considerably.
Right. We have one more. Do we have time? We have time for one more, right?
Yeah, we can do one more. One more. And then I've got to go to another meeting.
All right. So it is, what would be the academic path that the faculty and the current students would suggest for a potential student in order to become a certified clinical psychologist?
I think Prisha could probably answer, Prisha or Swastika could probably answer that, because I think both of them are thinking about it. Actually, Swati, do you want to answer that? Were you the one who, were you another one who's thinking of clinical psychology?
I think it was Anushka, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. Anushka, are you still there?
Hi, I'm still there, but unfortunately, that's not the path I am going to be following right now, because I'm going to take some time out and do work. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's undergraduate degree in psychology. So I'm sort of an MSc like the one I'm doing right now. And then I think, at least in the UK, you have to do your Declan Psy, which is what a lot of my classmates have just applied for. And then that gives you the certification you need to be a clinical psychologist. So I think it's another postgrad degree after this. I think
it's a long journey. It's as long, if not longer, as training to be a medical doctor. And the first degree in psychology, and indeed the masters, are just the preliminary academic steps. And then you have to show relevant experience, relevant work experience. And then you get on the program, and then it's 3 years long. So, but it is a job for life, you know. The UK doesn't have enough mental health professionals, and I imagine other places in the world don't either. So you have to kind of say to yourself, okay, you know, starting from the age of 18, if that's where I want to go, in about 6 years' time, I hope to be training on a professional doctoral program. So you have to kind of give it, it's a long goal, yeah. And you just have to get good advice about how to go about getting to that goal of being on a clinical course. Prisha, do you want to add anything here? Because
Yes,
I know that you're directly applying.
I just wanted to add that doing a 2-year MSc, like the one Anushka is doing, I think she's doing the DPCP, if I'm not wrong, and I'm doing the early child development. So I think the 2 years master's course is really worth the time, because that lets you have the experience that you need to apply for the doctorate. So I think not to be afraid of like a 2-year master's course, because I know most courses are 1 year. So I really do think that's worth spending your time on, if you do want to be a psychotherapist or clinical psychologist.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So Ria, no more questions?
There's one more, but it's a very straightforward one.
Okay, go on.
If I finish my master's program in India, can I apply for the doctorate of clinical psychology course?
You won't get on, because you would have to have an undergraduate degree that was accredited by the British Psychological Society. If you don't have that, that's one entry criterion. They'll just reject you immediately. And also you have to have, you know, at least a year of really relevant experience. And I think that I'm not being unhelpful here by saying it's quite difficult to get that relevant experience in India. I'm not saying that students don't get in, but you would, again, I would advise that person to contact the professional doctoral program in clinical psychology directly. There will be a contact email on the prospectus page for this, and check whether they have the relevant experience before they even bother to apply.
Right. I think that's it. That's it. We have no more
questions.
questions.
Okay. So I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody who contributed. Thank you very much to our audience. We hope it was helpful, and we hope to see some of you next year at UCL or the year after. And we hope you found this very useful. So I now have a meeting. There's someone banging on my door. So I'm going to go. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone. Take care,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.